All right, welcome everyone to Le Podcast de Philippe. And today we're going deep, a real deep dive on something pretty intriguing. It's OpenAI's new AI agent. It's called Operator.
Okay.
And in the next little bit, we're gonna cover how this autonomous tool, this Operator, can actually perform tasks online for us. We're gonna look at how it worked under the hood, the advantages it has over the sort of the traditional, the typical ways we automate stuff now, and some of the limitations and challenges it faces as it gets integrated into our systems. Right now, it's available in the U.S. and parts of Europe, including France.
Right. Okay.
So let's get right to it. What is Operator exactly?
Well, it is a new AI agent from OpenAI, and as you mentioned, it launched first in the US, but now it's also available in a number of European countries. So you've got France, Norway, Iceland, Liechtenstein, Switzerland. Essentially, it's an autonomous AI system.
Okay.
Which is, designed to carry out a bunch of tasks online, and it does it on behalf of the user. So think things like filling in forms online, ordering groceries, making restaurant reservations, planning vacations, that kind of thing.
So it sounds like a pretty significant step beyond just like a set of automated instructions. How does Operator actually work, and what's the core technology that's driving it?
Well, that's what makes this really interesting, actually. At its core, Operator is driven by OpenAI's computer using agent, which we call CUA. And this model sort of cleverly, combines the understanding and multimodal capabilities of GPT-4o with reinforcement learning techniques.
Right.
You can think of it like, it's like training an AI, basically, through trial and error, to become really adept at these online tasks.
So,
but the really novel aspect here, I think, is the way it interacts with the web. It's not like your traditional automation that relies on direct API connections. What the CUA actually does is it navigates and interacts with these graphical user interfaces, these GUIs, and it does this by using its own integrated web browser. So it's essentially seeing and interacting with these pages, much like you or I would if we're browsing online.
I see, yeah.
Currently, it's available as a preview for ChatGPT Pro subscribers.
Okay.
And you can access it through operator.chatgpt.com. Now, OpenAI, they've been collaborating, working with companies like DoorDash, Instacart, Uber, OpenTable to really fine-tune these interactions. But, the ultimate goal here, I think, is all about enhancing our productivity.
Yeah.
How do we get rid of those repetitive online tasks and make our online experiences, smoother and more seamless?
Yeah, that makes sense. So what are some of the main advantages, the real benefits of using something like Operator compared to those more traditional automation tools that we've been using?
Well, when we look at automation, I think Operator brings some pretty interesting advantages. Firstly, there's this versatility and autonomy, right? It can manage all these various tasks online from, as we said, travel bookings to your grocery lists, even filling out forms, and it can do all of this on its own. Now, with traditional automation, you often need a whole bunch of different tools, each one designed for a specific function.
Yeah, kind of a patchwork, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. And another thing is the way Operator interacts with web interfaces.
Right.
It actually uses its own browser, as we mentioned, which is different from the traditional methods where, you typically depend on these specific APIs.
Right.
And for these to work, websites need to have those APIs available, and you need tools that are custom built for them. Operator, with its browser-based interactions, could potentially work with a much wider array of applications and services online, and it wouldn't need these special integrations.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So, practically speaking, this could mean big time savings. It could mean cost reductions, and it frees professionals to focus on more strategic tasks.
Right.
And also think about this. The potential for greater accuracy, because AI, it's less prone to those human errors that we all make, especially with these repetitive tasks. And there's also this element of flexibility and that the users actually maintain control, right? They can intervene if they need to.
Okay.
And beyond just basic automation, Operator actually has analysis and decision-making capabilities.
Like what?
Yeah. So it can look at complex data, make informed decisions, and offer a level of optimization that you just don't get with traditional automation. And then finally, for businesses, it's the adaptability. It's the customization to specific needs and this possibility of integration through, robust APIs. That's a huge advantage.
Those benefits do sound pretty compelling. But of course, with any new technology, there are always areas for improvement, things that need a little more work. So what are some of the limitations, the challenges that operator faces right now?
Yeah. Of course, it's really important to consider, where the technology is at right now, its current state. From a purely technical standpoint, it does have certain limitations.
Okay.
So, for example, it might struggle with very, very specialized tasks, right?
I see.
So things like creating very detailed presentations or managing really complicated calendar schedules, that kind of thing. It can also run into issues with certain types of web interfaces, like the ones with capital CHAs, password fields, anything that's heavily customized.
Mm-hmm.
And, some users have also mentioned that the performance can be inconsistent.
Okay.
And at times there might be a higher chance of errors, compared to other OpenAI products.
Right.
Then there's the whole question of security and reliability. While there are safeguards, of course, there's always this potential for, vulnerability to these really sophisticated cyber attacks. So for sensitive platforms, things like online banking, human oversight is still really important.
Makes sense.
And there are usage restrictions as well.
Yeah.
So there are limits on how many tasks it can do at once. The overall daily usage is capped.
Right.
And also some users have reported that it feels a bit slower in practice than maybe, some of those early demos might have suggested.
Yeah.
And then there are the integration challenges, right?
Yeah.
So on top of the technical limitations, with those really specialized tasks, those non-standard interfaces, integrating operator with legacy systems, different technologies, that can be a really complex process. And then those usage limits, that we talked about, they also come into play with integration.
Right.
And so does the potential for errors on websites that are sensitive, that require human review. The risk of these new security vulnerabilities, and of course, the reported inconsistencies in performance, these are all challenges.
Yeah.
And then finally, there's the human element, those organizational changes. How do you ensure user adoption and deal with any resistance to these new technologies? That's a challenge in itself.
Right. Yeah, those are good points.
Yeah.
So since Operator uses its own browser, does that mean it's compatible with any web browser that, I might have on my computer?
Well, we need to be clear about that. It's not like a browser extension that you just add on to your existing browser.
Okay.
Right now, the only way you can access it is through the operator.chatgpt.com website. And This is specifically for ChatGPT Pro subscribers.
Right.
Now, they haven't really given all the details about browser compatibility, but, logically, it's probably designed to work well with the most common modern browsers. So, things like Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, and Opera, these usually stay pretty up to date with all the latest web technologies, the security protocols.
Right.
But for the best experience, the most secure experience, when you're using operator.chatgpt.com, it's always a good idea to use an updated version of one of those major browsers.
That makes sense.
With the older browsers, or the ones that aren't used as much, you might not have full support, and it might not be as smooth an experience.
Okay, so that gives us a really thorough look at OpenAI's Operator. So essentially, it's this new AI agent with a lot of potential for automating those online tasks. Right. It offers some big advantages when it comes to versatility and efficiency.
Right.
But it also comes with its own set of limitations and those integration complexities.
Exactly, and that really makes us think, given what it can do now and those limitations we talked about, how do you think AI agents like Operator might change our everyday interactions online?
That is a really interesting question. And by the way, if you're liking these deep dives, if you're finding them useful and you want to support the podcast of Philippe, we're actually trying to hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel today.
Oh, wow.
And your subscription would really, really help us get there. So Thanks for exploring this with us, and we really encourage you to keep looking into this really fascinating world of AI.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until next time.